Picture this, the vast Pacific Ocean waves rolling endlessly under an open sky. A pod of orcas glides through the water with effortless grace, their sleek black and white bodies cutting through the surf. These magnificent creatures are playing together, leaping high above the waves in pure joy, completely free in their natural habitat. It's a scene of perfect harmony until everything changes in an instant. From the horizon, a massive whaling ship appears, its industrial presence a dark shadow against the natural beauty. The sailors aboard have spotted the pod, and they're not here to admire the whales. They're here to capture them. With practiced efficiency, the crew lowers a small boat into the churning water, armed with an enormous net that spreads out like a spider's web beneath the surface. The chase begins. The orcas sense the danger immediately. They try to stay together, swimming in tight formation, as they've done for thousands of years when threatened. But nature's instincts are no match for human technology. The net closes in, and despite their desperate attempts to escape, one young orca becomes entangled in the mesh. The rest of the pod circles frantically, their cries echoing across the water. But there's nothing they can do. With heavy hearts and haunting calls, they're forced to swim away, abandoning one of their own to an unknown fate. That captured whale, confused, terrified, and alone, is about to embark on a journey far from everything it's ever known. Months pass. The orca is transported thousands of miles from the open ocean to a completely different world. A marine park in Portland, Oregon. The whale that once had an entire ocean to explore is now confined to a concrete tank, performing tricks for human entertainment. But this isn't where our story really begins. To understand what happens next, we need to meet someone who in many ways is just as trapped as that whale. His name is Jesse, and he's a 12-year-old kid who's learned the hard way that life doesn't hand out second chances easily. Jesse is an orphan, a word that carries more weight than most people realize. He's spent years bouncing through the foster care system, building walls around his heart, because every time he's let them down, someone has left him. His mother disappeared 6 years ago without a trace, and he's been surviving on the streets and in temporary homes ever since. One afternoon, Jesse and a small crew of other orphan kids are hanging out near a museum in downtown Portland. They've got a scheme going, nothing major, just picking pockets from distracted tourists who are too busy snapping photos to notice a few kids bumping into them. They manage to score enough cash to buy themselves something special, a birthday cake. It's nobody's birthday in particular, but when you're living on the margins like these kids are, you celebrate whatever small victories you can find. They share the cake at a local skate park, laughing and joking around, trying to forget that none of them have real families waiting at home. The conversation turns darker as they open up about their pasts. They talk about parents who left, about orphanages they ran away from, about social workers who gave up on them. Jesse listens but doesn't say much. He's learned that talking about pain doesn't make it hurt any less. But beneath his tough exterior, there's a kid who's still hoping against all logic that his mom will come back someday. Their moment of peace is shattered when a police cruiser rolls up to the skate park. The kids scatter immediately, muscle memory taking over. Jesse and his friend Perry sprint through the streets, their hearts pounding, until they spot what looks like the perfect hiding place. An old abandoned warehouse near the waterfront. The building is dark and quiet, exactly what they need. They slip inside, catching their breath, feeling like they've pulled off another narrow escape. Inside the warehouse, the air is musty and still. Jesse and Perry decide to make themselves at home, pulling out spray paint cans and tagging the walls with graffiti, small acts of rebellion that make them feel like they have some control over their chaotic lives. Everything seems fine until Jesse hears something unusual. It's a sound he can't quite place, something massive moving through water. Then lightning splits the sky outside, illuminating the warehouse for just a fraction of a second. In that flash of light, Jesse sees something that makes his blood run cold. Through a large glass window, there's an enormous shadow, something far too big to be human. His first instinct is pure terror. His mind races with possibilities. What kind of monster could be in there? But fear and curiosity are two sides of the same coin, and Jesse has always been the type of kid who needs answers. Slowly, heart hammering in his chest, he creeps back toward the glass. He presses his face close and peers into the darkness. That's when he sees it clearly. Not a monster, but something just as incredible. It's a killer whale, an orca, easily 20 feet long, swimming in slow, melancholic circles inside a massive tank. Jesse is stunned. He's seen pictures of whales in books, maybe caught glimpses on TV, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The sheer size of the creature is overwhelming, but what really strikes him is the look in the whale's eyes. There's an intelligence there, a depth of emotion that Jesse recognizes instantly because he's felt it himself. This whale is lonely. This whale has been torn away from everything it loves, just like Jesse. For a long moment, boy and whale look at each other through the glass. In that instant, Jesse doesn't feel quite so alone. He sees his own story reflected in this magnificent, imprisoned creature. Both of them have been abandoned. Both of them are trapped in places they never chose. Both of them are survivors who don't quite fit into the world around them. But the moment is broken by the sound of police sirens growing closer. Jesse's heart sinks. This time he's not fast enough. The officers find him before he can escape, and just like that, his night of freedom is over. The next morning finds Jesse sitting in a sterile office at the Child Welfare Services building. Across from him sits Dwight, a caseworker, who's clearly reached the end of his patience. Dwight has seen hundreds of kids like Jesse come through the system. Kids who act out, kids who run away, kids who refuse to trust anyone. He's tired of it, and he doesn't bother hiding his frustration. "You vandalized that marine park," Dwight says flatly. "That's destruction of property. You're looking at juvenile court unless you make this right." He slides a form across the desk. "You're going to go back to that park and clean up every bit of graffiti you sprayed. Every single tag." Jesse slumps in his chair, knowing he doesn't have much choice. But then Dwight drops another bomb. "And there's something else. A couple has agreed to take you in. Glenn and Annie Greenwood. They want to adopt you." Jesse's immediate response is defensive. "What about my real mom?" he demands. It's the question he's been asking for 6 years, the hope he clings to even when logic tells him it's pointless. Dwight's expression softens slightly, but his words are harsh reality. "Jesse, there's been no word from your mother in 6 years. No phone calls, no letters, nothing. You need to accept that she's not coming back. These people, Glenn and Annie, they're good people. They want to give you a home, a real home. You should give them a chance." Jesse doesn't respond. He just stares at the floor, processing information he doesn't want to hear. Later that day, Dwight drives Jesse to meet the Greenwoods. Glenn is a friendly guy in his 40s with an easygoing smile and kind eyes. Annie is warm and gentle, the type of woman who probably gives the best hugs. They welcome Jesse into their home with genuine enthusiasm, showing him around, trying to make him feel comfortable. But Jesse isn't having it. He's been let down too many times to trust these strangers no matter how nice they seem. He stays cold and closed off, answering their questions with single words, avoiding eye contact. That night, they show him to his own room, something he's never really had before, and leave him alone to decompress. In the quiet of his new room, Jesse pulls out his most prized possession, a harmonica his mother gave him before she disappeared. It's the only connection he has left to her. He plays it softly, the melancholic notes filling the room, and for just a moment he lets himself remember what it felt like to have someone who loved him. The next morning, Glenn tries to break through Jesse's defenses with a gift, a brand new bicycle. It's a nice gesture, but Jesse barely acknowledges it. Glenn drives him to the marine park where his community service sentence begins, trying to make conversation the whole way. Jesse responds with silence. At the park, Jesse is told to report to an employee named Randolph. He finds the man at a small caretaker's house near the water. Randolph is Native American, probably in his 60s, with a weathered face and eyes that seem to see more than most people. He doesn't waste words. Without much explanation, he leads Jesse to the massive tank where Jesse had spray painted the night before. Randolph hands him buckets, soap, sponges, and says simply, "Clean it all." Jesse gets to work scrubbing away his own graffiti, but he can't help noticing the enormous shadow moving through the water on the other side of the glass. It's the same whale he saw the night before. He watches it swim back and forth in the limited space of its tank. Something about the repetitive motion makes Jesse's chest tighten. Curious, Jesse walks outside to the observation deck where visitors can watch the whale from above. The water is calm at first. Then, without warning, there's an explosion of movement. The orca launches itself out of the water with incredible force, its massive body rising high into the air before crashing back down with a tremendous splash. Jesse stumbles backward, shocked by the sheer power and size of the animal. Randolph appears immediately, his face stern. "Stay back from the edge," he warns. "That whale's name is Willie, and he's not friendly. He doesn't like people getting too close. He can be dangerous if you disturb him." But Jesse isn't scared. If anything, Randolph's warning makes him more interested. Over the next few days, as he continues his cleaning duties, Jesse can't stop thinking about Willie. He starts to notice patterns in the whale's behavior. How Willie seems more agitated at certain times, how he makes specific sounds when he's distressed. One morning, while putting the finishing touches on the last section of graffiti removal, Jesse has an idea. He pulls out his harmonica and starts playing a slow, gentle melody near the tank. Almost immediately, something changes. Willie, who had been swimming erratically, slows down. The whale moves closer to the glass, tilting his massive head as if trying to hear better. The music seems to calm him. Jesse walks outside to the observation deck and plays again. This time, Willie swims directly beneath him, following the sound. For the first time since being captured, the whale doesn't look angry or agitated. He looks peaceful, maybe even happy. Encouraged, Jesse keeps playing. Willie responds by performing a spectacular jump, launching himself high into the air and creating a massive splash that drenches everyone within 20 feet, including Ray, the park's head marine animal trainer who happens to be walking by. Ray is soaked, but instead of being angry, she's intrigued. She's been working with Willie for months with limited success. The whale has been stubborn, aggressive, and completely uncooperative with standard training methods. But this kid, this troubled orphan who was sent here as punishment, has somehow managed to connect with Willie in just a few days. Ray approaches Jesse with a proposition. "How would you like to help me train Willie?" she asks. "I could use someone who understands him." Jesse is taken aback. Nobody has asked him to help with anything important in years. "Really?" he asks, trying not to sound too eager. "Really?" Ray confirms. "But you'll need to learn the basics first, starting with how to choose the right fish to feed him, how to read his body language, how to give proper signals." It's a small responsibility, but to Jesse it feels monumental. Someone is actually trusting him. Someone believes he can do something worthwhile. That night, Jesse can't sleep. His mind is racing with thoughts of Willie. Against his better judgment and breaking the promise he made to Glenn and Annie, he sneaks out of his bedroom window and rides his bike back to the marine park. The place is deserted at night, dark, except for the ambient glow from the security lights. Jesse makes his way to the observation deck and starts playing his harmonica again. Within seconds, Willie surfaces, swimming closer to the sound. But then, Jesse hears footsteps approaching. Panicked, he tries to hide, backing up quickly in the darkness. His foot slips on the wet edge of the platform, and suddenly he's falling. The water is shockingly cold. Jesse thrashes, trying to stay afloat, but he's never been a strong swimmer. He starts to sink water, filling his lungs, panic setting in. This is it, he thinks. This is how it ends. But then something incredible happens. Through the murky water, Jesse sees Willie's enormous form approaching. Instead of attacking, the whale gently nudges Jesse with his rostrum, pushing the boy upward toward the surface. Willie positions himself underneath Jesse, lifting him until the boy can grab the edge of the platform and pull himself out. Jesse lies on the deck, coughing up water, his whole body shaking. When he finally catches his breath and looks back at the pool, Willie is floating there watching him with those intelligent eyes. The whale just saved his life. An animal that has every reason to hate humans just saved him. "Thank you," Jesse whispers, his voice cracking with emotion. A few minutes later, Randolph appears, having heard the commotion. He helps Jesse up, checking to make sure he's okay. But what really shocks Randolph is the fact that Willie didn't attack. In all the months Willie has been at this park, he's never allowed anyone in the water without becoming aggressive. "We're friends," Jesse explains simply. Then more quietly, "I only came to say goodbye. My community service is almost done." Randolph studies the boy for a long moment. He can see something in Jesse that others have missed, a genuine connection to this whale, a bond that goes beyond normal human-animal relationships. An idea begins to form. Randolph drives Jesse home, where Glenn and Annie are understandably frantic. They've discovered Jesse's empty room and were about to call the police. Randolph calmly explains what happened at the park, carefully omitting the part where Jesse nearly drowned. Then he makes an unexpected offer. Jesse could work at the park permanently, help take care of Willie. The whale responds to him better than anyone else. Jesse's eyes light up with hope. "Really? I could do that?" Glenn and Annie exchange glances. Finally, Glenn speaks. "Only if you promise, and I mean really promise, that you'll never sneak out again. No more running away." Jesse nods vigorously. "I promise. I really do." This time, he means it. The next morning, Jesse's life takes on new purpose. He arrives at the park early, eager to learn everything he can about caring for Willie. Ray teaches him about orca biology, their dietary needs, their social structures in the wild. Jesse absorbs it all like a sponge, asking questions, taking mental notes. During his lunch break, Jesse visits the park's storage area looking for fish to feed Willie. While there, he runs into Perry, his old friend from the streets. Perry is working at the park too, sort of. He's actually casing the place, planning to steal equipment with his crew. "Come work with us," Perry offers. "Easy money, better than cleaning fish guts." But Jesse isn't interested anymore. "I've got a job, a real one. I'm helping train Willie," Perry scoffs. "Training a whale? That's what you're doing with your life now?" "Yeah," Jesse says firmly. "It is." Perry leaves, shaking his head, and Jesse gets back to work. He's found something that matters to him, and he's not going to let it go. Over the following weeks, Jesse and Willie grow closer. The training sessions become more elaborate. Jesse learns Willie's signals, and Willie learns to trust Jesse's commands. They develop their own language, a combination of hand gestures, harmonica notes, and intuitive understanding. But there's a problem looming on the horizon. The marine park is struggling financially. The owner, a businessman named Dial, has invested heavily in Willie, but so far the whale has been completely uncooperative with the park's trainers. Dial is losing patience and money. Ray explains the situation to Jesse one afternoon. Mr. Dial is coming to watch a demonstration. If Willie performs well, Dial will invest in building a bigger, better tank. If not, she trails off, but the implication is clear. We can do this, Jesse says confidently. Willie trusts me. They spend the next few days rehearsing. Willie learns to swim on his belly, to splash on command, to slide out of the tank and back into the water. The whale is capable of amazing things when he's motivated by trust rather than fear. The day of the demonstration arrives. Mr. Dial sits in the observation area, a businessman evaluating an investment. Jesse stands by the tank, nervous but determined. He gives Willie the first signal. Willie performs beautifully. He executes every trick, flawlessly moving with grace and power. The small crowd watching the demonstration applauds. Mr. Dial nods approvingly, already calculating the profits from future shows. Impressive, Dial says to Ray afterward. I'll approve the bigger tank. We'll start promoting shows next month. It seems like a victory, but Jesse can't shake a nagging feeling that something isn't right. Willie performed well, but the whale's eyes looked sad, resigned. Still, Jesse tells himself this is good news. A bigger tank means Willie will have more space, a better life. A few days later, the park announces its first major public show. The marketing campaign is aggressive billboards, radio ads, newspaper articles. See Willie the Amazing Orca posters appear all over Portland. Tickets sell out immediately. On the day of the show, the viewing area is packed with hundreds of people. Families with young children, tourists with cameras, everyone eager to see the famous whale perform. The atmosphere is electric with anticipation, but backstage, Jesse notices that something is wrong with Willie. The whale is swimming in agitated circles, making distressed vocalizations. The noise from the crowd is overwhelming. Children screaming, adults chattering, music blaring from the park's sound system. It's sensory overload for an animal that's used to the quiet depths of the ocean. He's stressed, Jesse tells Ray worriedly. He'll be fine once we start, Ray assures him, but she doesn't sound convinced. The show begins. Ray blows her whistle and Jesse gives Willie the signal for the first trick. Willie doesn't respond. He just continues swimming in circles, making long, mournful sounds that echo across the tank. Jesse tries again using the hand signals they've practiced dozens of times. Come on, Willie. You can do this. But Willie won't perform. He's too stressed, too overwhelmed by the crowd. The audience starts to get restless. Some people begin to boo. Others demand refunds. Then things take a turn for the worse. A group of kids at the bottom of the observation tank start banging on the glass trying to get Willie's attention. The noise is too much. Willie snaps. The whale charges directly at the glass with terrifying speed. There's a loud crack as a fracture appears in the thick plexiglass. People scream and scramble backward. Parents grab their children and run for the exits. The park descends into chaos. Jesse stands there frozen, watching his worst nightmare unfold. He feels like he's failed. Willie failed. Ray failed everyone who believed in him. Mr. Dial is furious. He storms off, muttering about lawsuits and financial losses. Jesse runs from the park, humiliated and heartbroken. Glenn and Annie try to talk to him, but Jesse won't listen. Even Dwight shows up attempting to reason with him, but Jesse is beyond consolation. In his anger and pain, he blurts out that he's going to leave and find his real mother. Dwight finally snaps. Jesse, your mother left you. She's not coming back. She made that choice 6 years ago. When are you going to accept that? The words hit Jesse like a physical blow. Deep down, he's always known the truth, but hearing it said out loud makes it real. He runs away again, this time going home to his room at Glenn and Annie's house. That night, alone in the dark, Jesse can't stop thinking about Willie. Something about the whale's behavior at the show bothered him. The sounds Willie was making weren't just stress, they were calls. Specific, purposeful calls. Breaking his promise yet again, Jesse sneaks out and returns to the marine park. He's angry at first, angry at Willie for ruining his own chance at a better life. But as he approaches the tank, he hears something that stops him in his tracks. There are other orcas out in the open ocean, and they're calling back to Willie. Jesse climbs a ladder to get a better view beyond the park walls. In the moonlight, he can see the distinctive dorsal fins of wild orcas surfacing in the bay. Willie's family is out there trying to reach him. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Willie wasn't being stubborn during the show. He was responding to his family's calls. He was trying to communicate with the pod he was stolen from all those months ago. Jesse's heart breaks for his friend. He's about to climb down when he hears voices below. He ducks behind some equipment and watches as Mr. Dial and several maintenance workers approach the damaged tank. But they're not there to repair it, they're making it worse. Jesse watches in horror as the workers deliberately remove structural supports and damage the filtration system. Water begins draining from the tank at an alarming rate. The insurance policy pays out $1 million if the whale dies, Dial says to one of his workers. Make sure it looks like an accident. Jesse's blood runs cold. They're going to let Willie die so they can collect the insurance money. Without hesitation, Jesse runs to Randolph's house and pounds on the door. When Randolph answers, still half asleep, Jesse frantically explains what he saw. Randolph grabs his coat and follows Jesse back to the park. One look at the damaged tank confirms Jesse's story. We have to free him, Jesse says desperately. It's the only way. Randolph knows the boy is right. It won't be easy. We'll need help. They call Ray, who arrives within the hour. She's terrified of what Mr. Dial might do if he catches them, but she can't stand by and let Willie die. Together, the three of them hatch a plan. They'll use the park's industrial crane to lift Willie out of the tank using a specially designed stretcher. Then they'll transport him via truck to the ocean and release him into the wild. It's risky, potentially illegal, and could fail in a dozen different ways, but it's Willie's only chance. Ray activates the emergency pumps to slow the water drainage and buy them more time. Randolph powers up the crane and positions the stretcher. Jesse stands at the edge of the tank, calling to Willie. Come on, boy, trust me one more time. Willie swims closer, hesitant. The whale has learned to trust Jesse, but this is asking a lot. Finally, Willie moves into position near the stretcher, but before they can secure him, the cracked glass gives way completely. Water rushes out in a torrent. There's no time for careful maneuvering anymore. Jesse makes a split-second decision. He jumps into the rapidly draining tank, swimming to Willie despite the dangerous currents. He guides the whale onto the stretcher, with his hands speaking soothing words the whole time. I've got you. We're getting you home. Finally, Willie settles into position. Jesse quickly secures the ropes, and Randolph activates the crane. Slowly, the massive whale rises out of the tank water, streaming off his body. They lower Willie onto a trailer that's been attached to Randolph's truck. Jesse runs to grab the keys, and they begin the long drive through the forest toward the ocean. But the journey is fraught with obstacles. Halfway to the coast, they encounter a massive fallen log blocking the narrow road. They try to reverse, but the truck, weighed down by several tons of Orca, sinks into the soft earth and gets stuck. Jesse remembers that Glenn's truck has a radio. He grabs the communicator and calls for help, his voice desperate. Dad, please, I need you. It's the first time he's ever called Glenn Dad. Glenn and Annie have been searching for Jesse all night, coordinating with the police. When they hear his voice over the sheriff's radio, they immediately respond. Within minutes, they arrive at the scene. Jesse explains everything. The insurance plot, the plan to free Willie, the urgency of getting to the ocean before dawn. Glenn doesn't hesitate. He tells Randolph to hook a chain to his truck's bumper, and together they pull the heavier vehicle free. In that moment, Jesse sees Glenn differently. This man isn't just some stranger trying to replace his mother. This is someone who shows up when it matters, someone he can count on. Jesse runs to Glenn and hugs him tightly, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, Dad, he whispers. Together, they continue toward the ocean, but time is running out. Willie's skin is drying out and orcas can't survive long out of water. Glenn suggests stopping at an all-night car wash. They use the high-pressure hoses to spray Willie down, keeping his skin moist enough to survive the final leg of the journey. Finally, they reach the entrance to the harbor, but Mr. Dial and his security team have anticipated their route. They're blocking the road, determined not to lose their insurance payout. Glenn doesn't slow down. He drives straight at them. At the last second, Dial's men jump aside, and Glenn backs the truck down the boat ramp into the water. The trailer lowers, and Willie slides into the sea. For a moment, Willie just floats there, exhausted from the ordeal. Jesse wades into the water, calling to his friend. You're free, Willie, go home. But Dial's men haven't given up. They're calling for whaling boats to recapture the whale. In the distance, Jesse can see two boats moving into position, lowering nets into the water. Jesse runs along the rocky shore, trying to lead Willie away from the nets. But there's a problem. A massive barrier of rock stands between Willie and the open ocean. The whale is too tired and too big to swim around it. There's only one way out, over the rocks. Jesse climbs onto the highest point, waving his arms to get Willie's attention. He gives the signal they've practiced, the jump. But this isn't a pool jump. This is a leap over a 20-foot rock barrier into uncertain water on the other side. You can do this! Jesse shouts, his voice carrying across the water. I believe in you! Willie swims backward, building up speed. Jesse watches his heart pounding. Then, with every ounce of strength in his massive body, Willie launches himself out of the water. Time seems to slow down. The enormous orca flies through the air in a perfect arc, his body silhouetted against the rising sun. He clears the rocks by inches and crashes into the open ocean on the other side with a tremendous splash. From the open sea, the calls of other orcas ring out. Willie's family has been waiting. Jesse watches through tears as Willie swims toward them, his dorsal fin cutting through the waves. The pod surrounds him, welcoming him home. Jesse stands on the rocks, watching until Willie disappears into the vast blue. His heart is breaking, but it's a good kind of pain. He didn't just save a whale today, he saved his best friend. And in doing so, he learned something profound. Sometimes love means letting go. Glenn walks up behind him, placing a hand on Jesse's shoulder. Jesse leans into the touch, finally accepting that he has a family again. Not the family he was born into, but the family he chose, the family that chose him back. As the sun rises over the Pacific, Jesse takes one last look at the ocean where Willie swims free. He pulls out his harmonica and plays a final melody, not a sad song, but a triumphant one. A song of freedom, hope, and new beginnings.